First of all, this hosting landscape, we kind of need to get a picture, a map, if you will, of this IT landscape. And so you always start this discussion with on-premises, the traditional IT department. Every reasonable sized company on the planet has a room back in the back someplace. It's closed up and it's dark, and that's where all the IT stuff lives, all the computers and servers and all the stuff that lives back there. You've probably seen it. It's probably a bit of a mess. But that's the traditional IT department, and it's referred to now as being on-premises. Now, remember who's referring to it. It's the cloud guys. And so the cloud guys call that traditional IT department on-premises. It's on the premises of the IT consumer. A little short version, on-prem. You may hear it referred to as just on-prem. That's the traditional IT department. Now, as things move along, we came across another kind of IT resource called a co-location. It's a business, it's a building that's someplace else. It's not on-prem here, it's someplace else, that allows me to now put my IT resources there instead of on-premises. Instead of on-prem, it's colo. Okay? Now, a good example of that is if you were concerned about your IT resources maybe being involved in a flood or a hurricane or a power outage or something like that, and then your whole business, all of your remote offices go down as well. And so what you might do there is contract with a co-location facility, which is probably close but not too close, and you move your IT resources there. If not all of them, some of them. But so that the point there is it gives you some disaster recovery. It gives you the ability now to recover from a disaster because the disaster is not likely to hit both facilities at the same time. If you had a power outage or a storm or something like that, it gives you the opportunity to keep your enterprise up and running. Now, these businesses, these co-location businesses, sell their product, which is space in their building. They sell their product from a retail perspective and a wholesale perspective. They sell retail to the company who will buy the space from them directly, the end user company. The end user company moves all their equipment there. They build a cage around it, put a big lock on it, on the cage, and then the end user is the only one with the key. That's a co-location retail facility. Now, these colos also sell wholesale, which means that a reseller, an IT system integrator, reseller, solution provider, now they're ready to install or build a data center for an end user customer, but instead of building it on-prem, they'll build it in the colo. And so the reseller buys the co-location space and resells it to the end user as part of his IT solution. Now that's a colo facility. We've learned some things about that. Now let's move on to hosting. And so hosting, the hosting facility itself, if you wanted to buy hosted services from a hosting company, from a cloud services provider, then you're going to have to learn to really answer three questions. And the first question is, the hosting company will ask you, do you want your IT resources managed or unmanaged? Okay, well, you think, well, heck, I don't want my IT resources to be unmanaged. What does that mean? Well, you have to think from their perspective. What the question they're asking you is, do you want your IT resources managed by us or unmanaged by us, right? It's kind of a selfish perspective. But that's the question you have to learn to ask and answer. Do I want it managed and unmanaged? Of course, one's going to cost less than the other. It's going to cost more to have it managed by the hosting company, and less if I manage it myself. That's the first question, managed, unmanaged. Second question is standard, custom. So the IT hosting company may say, okay, do you want standard or custom? Well, what is standard? Well, here are 5 servers. Here's the biggest one, here's the smallest one. Pick one. They're all Dell. Okay, well, not really sort of a Dell guy. I was hoping maybe for HP. Well, okay, you want custom then. Custom is, okay, here's 5 HPs and 5 Dells and 5 IBMs. Pick one, right? And instead of being able just to choose the actual server you want, then standard means I'm choosing from a very small list. Custom's probably going to mean I'm going to choose just from a little bit of a larger list. That's all. And so a standard solution is going to cost less than custom. And the reason is that probably 100% of the technicians who work at this hosting facility are trained on those 5 Dell servers, whereas maybe only 25% of them are trained on all 15. And so it's going to cost a little more for custom. You can never, there were companies to start out, cloud companies, who would say, look, you choose any old server you want and we'll put it in for you. those companies went out of business because they just couldn't, that's not a sustainable model. And so today, you have to learn what this terminology about standard versus custom. Here's another choice, dedicated. That means exactly what it sounds like. Do you want these resources that we're going to give you usage of, do you want them dedicated to you? You're the only one who uses them. Or can they be shared by others? Now you're thinking, how can I share IT resources with another company? There might be a competitor. Well, you'll see that it's pretty straightforward. And so the choice you have to decide is dedicated versus shared. Shared is going to cost less because the cloud company is actually now providing usage of a single server to multiple companies. They sell it multiple times. And so dedicated versus shared. And you'll see here that arrow, that hosting companies kind of want to drive you to the right of this sort of quadrant. They want to sell you shared, managed, standard solutions because that's where they make the most money. And you don't blame them. Whereas other companies may want to choose something, but the transition and the trend here is to try to move you away from dedicated and toward shared. Now, in reality, most companies wind up with some sort of a hybrid solution, some combination of things. And you know, if you were going to buy a hosted solution in your really business critical applications like ERP or CRM, if you're going to have those hosted, then they might be dedicated servers, maybe a custom server, maybe a product you're going to manage yourself. And they may be in the upper left-hand quadrant of that picture. Whereas you may have your websites, 5 or 6 websites, and you just hand all the websites off to them and say, look, put these in your shared, managed solution, and you guys take care of those, keep them up and running, do some load balancing, do the things that need to be done. And so that gives you then a hybrid solution. And so if you just from the perspective of the hosting company, that's how they would see a hybrid solution. Very, very common, the most common kind of an approach to a hosting company. That's if you ask the hosting company what is hybrid. But if you were to ask most any IT manager on the planet what is hybrid, that's what their hybrid solution is actually going to look like. Because I'm going to tell you, there will always be equipment on-prem. And there might also be equipment colo, and also equipment being hosted. And so a hybrid solution probably will always look more like that wider ellipse. I say to the hosting company, look, I thought you guys were a cloud provider, show me the cloud, sell me some cloud. And so if you ask the hosting company about the cloud, that's how they define the cloud. They define it safely down in that right lower-hand quadrant. To them, cloud is managed by them, it's standard hardware, it's shared by lots of customers, that's cloud. But again, go back to that IT manager and say, what is your perspective of cloud? His drawing cloud is going to look like this. He's going to say, yeah, that hosting company, those are cloud resources. And my co-location relationship, that's a cloud resource. But also, I have some cloud computing right on premises. You may think, now, wait a minute, I thought that the definition of cloud was it was someplace else. I'm going to introduce you in a few minutes to some technology that will show you how you can actually have a cloud resource right on your premises.